Hello, Ms. Sweeny and students of Trinity College. Leading up to the World Trade Center attack, shortly before, and since I was a little kid, there have been Weathersfield interbranch and intermilitary involved with drugs and medicine crimes, including with those other countries like Afghanistan, involved with a crime method that is involved with a whole bunch of crime methods. These are with prosecutors and judges and their family members through other motivations, nature's needs, interests, and roles, with tricks where they make instances with locations where they're in collusion with what actually is going down with locations. Even Trinity College, where they have everything videotaped. These are also co-defendants of former director of the FBI and their family members and their kids. Generations of them. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, in his defending capacities in a 2006 district court case in Connecticut, for example. Leading up to that, and since they attached me to a fake writing of a letter with a Hugh Ogden, also. And then that was before he was reported untimely death through ICE, which is there are people associated with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, and with news reports on that, and with people that fight with him personally, like people associated with Connecticut boxing gyms, and with the people personally associated with them and their family members, that I don't have a means to go up to them because of, in other words, the courts and the police forms and political families. There's a former Mayor Gold. This is recorded how they keep victim predators, because they have everyone, how they're using the identity of the ground locations. So there's a Joshua Stryker, who I also never had. He wasn't even in my grade. I never had a class with him. It has something to do with how they have Weathersfield police forging and switching names on falsified police reports. So they've been using that through the years. They have two guys 3 times since my father. First time 3 months after my father's death. I caught them with this method because they did it through time. With my new and past neighbors, I recorded, confessed, and demonstrated from here on Weathersfield, involved with predicate acts on Trinity College and on CCSU, and their roles with the people, forced by the police, that I also recorded they recorded themselves over the last couple months. Further, and since then. See, but they're pretending they don't understand what I'm saying, because that's why they've been fabricating audio and video to replace what is actually recorded with audio and video. And they attach me to a fake writing of a letter. And they have names forging and switching. And they have wire crimes, mail crimes that are also internet oriented. And there are also crime methods that are also demonstrating where there was remote uses of cases with the branches of government individually grouped in together originally, in relationship to how still. And so where and how there is correlation/discorrelation, it is also recorded how these are people also involved with worse than hate crimes, as people pretend to be against such. For example, there's a Justin Klavinskis, and there's a Mike Violet and Mark Violet, recorded, confessed, to demonstrate, involved with. Also, there are a Kerr family. There's an officer, Jerry Miller, also recorded, involved with predicate acts with them, and with uses of people associated with forensics locations and the body dumping spots of Billy Grasso and the locations next to them, involved with other natures of predicate acts and extortion and identity thefts and frauds, like associated with this Joshua Stryker. And now they have someone pretending to be a Dean Alford or a Dean Alford, but forging, switching names where they have been using the Facebook and the Facebook policing for crimes where they're using with the crime methods that recorded, where they're using our behavior, descriptions of behavior, leaving out subjects. They're in other words, they're making no time for proper treatments of sequence, proper treatments of, all the problem /S going down. I don't want to call things crimes because they're recorded. Connecticut courts originally and still, interstate courts originally and still, they were left by a breaching method already being and having been employed. Colonists A through Z, Native Americans A through C, already had this sustained against them. So then they make rights and they bring up those types of rights, all abridged. And they want to have people debate that don't know each other. And the only way that is sustained is for what really recorded furthers their motivations to roles with the various natures of drugs, crimes, and roles with like Afghanistan families associated recorded. See, there are doctors I never had a conversation with, including there are people with the intelligence community associated with them, ones that are doctors and with the intelligence community, and their kids and everything. They're involved with inter-campuses and intra-campuses. What is kept needing to only capable of valuing other people, things, and means and methods against correlation nature, outside of campuses, for example, and outside private locations simultaneously. Because this is where and how that breaching method that had those laws, like with slavery and like with people with Jim Crow laws, explanations of them, they leave out what is simultaneous. Simultaneously, that increasingly values the forced, each of the sciences tactically abridged, and this with syntax ties, therefore with function ties to where and how we are identity, the ground locations, memory. And this is where perfect memory is increasing as its own, as the identity of volume, that as the identity of scientific value. That is the identity that a value that all identities of value slash value progression share individually, distinct from how grouped. Ages, areas, sexes, physical differences, in demonstration of the invisible difference. But per its system, that these were also actually recorded to correlation in nature slash the discorrelation nature's means. See, where there is discorrelation by the surface values of the Constitution, regardless if the person knows what amendment correlates with what. There were the laws that were slash are increasing value to discern how there was a predicate acts delivery system method that was a method slash S, where it was consciously making other people blame making everyone blame people, other things, and others for where and how the quote perfect world unquote as a phrase is used with where and how the complete possession over the integrity of colonists A through Z, of Native Americans A through Z, because there already has been sustained against everyone. Already had separated everyone from the quality of fact-cheating nature that its method knew would have to be to overcome the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures that nature would be demonstrating, because the sciences the value of the republic for which we stand, and its concentrated campus's value, which is constantly, increasingly an invisible but still discernible identity of relationship, where everything is, because everything shares this volume we are together, not just individually, group, and species, body, a volume /s, making we are more and more forever nature. Only the extent of it is debatable. So originally, still they had locations, areas, and states of hundreds of nations at once, already offensively. The uses of positive and negative. So whenever there are uses of positive or negative that are insidious natures of positive treatments, like criminal insidious natures of positive treatments, of truth treatments, of facts treatments, where truths and more are being used for lies, with overt lies, way worse than lies, breaching method where it is sustained. It's not just to say that it is bad. It was bad, and is bad because increasingly because so everyone would say that is bad. So the quality of fact treatment nature would stay, simple treatments of positive and negative, and the more and more those simple treatments of positive and negative are fake, worse than fake, integrity. That's and screening that self-screen to what kept this outcome. But for example, there's identity theft /fraud that is overt against every single person. But they are preventing everyone sickly distinctly, effectively to keep and having kept, how sickly not distinctly from being discerned. So not one has learned. Because short words, not only not forsaking the perfect world, but using the perfect world, which has means as the phenomena of a volume greater than, and simultaneously while being more finite than its value, while being its value, also has the value of its identity of relationship to itself. It has the value of that increasing. So if we attend to quality of fact, treatment nature, true. In summary, there were Afghan families stand. Our victim. Our countries are supposed to be. Our species identity of volume is individually grouped in together everywhere our species is, and we're supposed to value it more than the other species. For example, if we want to, the reach of the religions are saying things that the formal takes on it are offensively preventing demonstration of. Because of their simultaneously trying to defend, for example, I brought religion up because these are all these names of people I had never had conversations with that are pretending passions and emotions, and they are further involved with the principal sex offenders campus in my town, Weathersfield, and in the same campus /s, and the locations next to the campuses. Because where everything bad goes down, then there are investigators doing what all they only can know how to fathom doing. But this method knew that after sustaining that, they would have to hide their own life progressions, timed right to those spots, not by accident. The worst crimes that are criminal foreign influence behind them. Like with the extent of the natures of drugs and medicines crimes, in collusion with the people also involved with the people on the child sex offender registry that were recorded further involved with data racketeering, identity thefts, and frauds, and instances of it timed that show remote uses of interbranch locations, Wethersfield Police Department, locations next to it, where it is now, where it used to be in the building with the Wethersfield Library. Further involved with people tied to the principal sex offender campus. Further involved with drugs and medicines crimes. We have doctors attaching people to fake uses of drugs, fake conversations with themselves, and fake conversations about legal cases. And now these are people who are personally, through time, involved with people like prosecutors and judges, long-standing, retired, and standing. This is where and how that was never unentrenched. You know, it was because free speech is prevented. And now what's preventing it offensively, it's shown that it's going to need to hide that when we come to the motivations. But we have to, you know, they're separating subjects by making all these fake instances. So over the past 2 months, Wethersfield police have more people recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with them forging and switching names with people also on Trinity College that recorded, confessed, and demonstrated off-campus investigators and investigations and identities of the law that are also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated other contexts involved with overt criminal enterprises and with people with programs training police forms and military, and with their roles with inter-campuses and intra-campuses, remote uses of the kids interbranch. So they more to make mistreatments of positive and negative. So they more and more they're needed to make mistreatments of names of identity. Identity has a simultaneous relationship to positive and negative. See, but we have positive and negative treatments originally still that were recorded as criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, criminal insidiousness natures of patriotism treatments, of party treatments. Both parties were/are the complete possession of a breaching method that had them using the quote right to lie unquote to keep, no matter what president, what party gets, what alternative gets to that position where an individual could have a voice. That the quality of fact treatment nature is prevented per how premises treatments and sequence treatments agreed about on a mass scale. That's valued, democracy valued as in a distinctly syntactically in an identity of negative value nature progression, when that's self-value. That's self-value because we're no longer, the market systems are no longer driven by and as that native system that inventions work or not in relationship to it, but they are also further positive or not in relationship to it. So there are countless ways for truths and facts to be used in collusion with complete lies and breaching methods, predicate acts delivery system method, roles. I'm not even a lawyer, not even police form, not a criminal, not a judge, not a military. Originally, still, the attention to detail was not, and it was his pretending other. Now, and how it was shown needs and means to hide that. Now, see, all these answers were at the basic level, the youngest age. Not about, prejudice. See, they're at the youngest age, they're demonstrating to kids that in the suburbs where George Washington had to leave slavery entrenched between New York and Boston and Wethersfield, where he had to meet with the French general, thank God for his help. But they had to leave it entrenched in the North and South, sickly distinctly, effectively to keep how sickly non-distinctly, blamed on other things, others themselves, and not even discerned by that method. See, the predicate acts delivery system method begins and stays. the only unnatural subject that is natural, because that's what they're exploiting, the natural syntax. Treatments of positive and negative. What goes down, what went down. They've been replacing what actually is recorded online and with locations. So there are other agencies also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with uses of Facebook and Twitter in collusion with the interbranch families and intermilitary interservice database at the same time, and overt criminal enterprises, and the Witness Protection Program stewards, all recorded with ties to my street, in my area, and my town's police chief years ago, and one now with ties to the officers forging names, switching names in their sequence. Now, they have two officers. They have more than two officers that claim to be Officer McGee. But at least two times they have that on a formal context. 3 times they forced me into Hartford Hospital for mental evaluation. To block me from countering them, I caught them with more then and now with the principal sex offenders campus. Before that was caught off campus. Even if they made that up, especially if they made that up. Because I caught them with wire crimes. That these are also the people with the drugs and medicines crimes that have been creating instances online, like this Justin Kovinskis. I don't know his brother's name. Never met his brother. But they're recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with corners of the street, people on the corners of the street of Griswold Street through time, with foreign and domestic countries, people associated with fire departments, involved with wire crime acts methods, people trying to ask statements, ask questions, like they have even charity because they want to make positive and negative treatments. In other words, there are a lot of kids, there are a lot of natures of child abuse juxtaposed. There are a lot of natures of identity thefts and frauds juxtaposed. But so I never wrote this letter to this Hugh Ogden. But it also got those people that were involved with that and with untimely death on the campus of Trinity College. They were also involved with my new and past neighbors, people tied to them, and confessions. Now, I don't know if they even know. I know to the extent they don't even know. But these are people the police bring up on the phones. See, these are people hiding life aggressions because they were involved through time, interbranch, stacking, fabricating. These are justice racketeering that was used remotely leading up to the World Trade Center attack in it. People from Wethersfield schools, intercity schools, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated roles of the Morrow family also, who said that when they were kids, they confirmed, confessed. Every once in a while, they would seek me out for confessions and confirmations of their further. They had roles of wire crimes and drugs and medicines crimes too. When they were kids, with people with this principal sex offenders campus, and with the further names, like a Phil Clow, I never had anything to do with him, and or nor the people on the street, on the side of the high school, which one time when he was, they probably filmed that, made it look like they were trying to make it look like I know those people, but those people were also avert identity thefts and frauds, timed instances on Facebook where they have Facebook being and having been recorded and involved with medicines crimes and drugs crimes with the kids that are also even through their treatments of Facebook. They have the little daughters of generations of a Leahy family involved with the medical campuses, intercities involved with drugs and medicines crimes, untimely deaths, fabricating, lying about slanders of people. These are doctors pretending people had conversations with themselves, pretending people took drugs that never did. Now they also had their patients and criminals come into their hospital, the ones that are involved with the drug dealing with them. Timed instances because they have to hide life aggressions. And all that is used remotely. They have other countries involved with them sick like this, with psychology and logic, where they have them involved with identity thefts and frauds. Offensively, they're with physical delusions that would be overcome but for these rules, crime, predator methods that are also with locations tied to where they prevent the order of the finite. I saw Martin Luther King Jr. saying, okay, in a little clip on CNN, saying, okay, we're not going to be afforded the order of the finite. That's it, stop. That means correlation/discorrelation, the Constitution's abridged. That is being and having been exploited by a method. The same way computers have to work to all locations, temporary ones. Now they have the microchips. So now they have more locations, they have more functions. But see, then they have more people pretending computers can think better than us. They have more people self-valuing. How there is a method recorded clear as day from off campuses, maintaining it, victim reactions, increasingly self-valuing having been from off campuses, maintained on off campuses collusion with mistreatments of positive and negative and off sequence, and of progressive value /S, and of identity value /S. So these are places like next to the state capitol in Hartford, Connecticut. There's a Mike Pandal. There's a Mike Pandal also involved, but then there's a Mike Domain, Mike Domain also. But there's a Mike Daly and a Chet Casper. They're involved with people. Pretend I had words with them that never were. Even spoke nonsense, like fake words. They must have filmed that to pretend I had a conversation with them to imply that I saw them before, that I know them before that. They're also involved with that with the shoreline communities. This is Wethersfield interbranch, but it's intercities Wethersfield, interstates. These are the people Joe DeMauro said when he is tied to the World Trade Center attack. Heather Hansen also recorded, confessed, demonstrated with others, like a Zano family. I had nothing to do with the Zano family. They tried to pretend a couple with instances. They made an instance with a Rhode Island campus and some other campus. With the Luigi, I don't know Luigi and his sister. The recorded that may be associated with one of the political families. See, but this is how they keep everyone needing to hide. Where and how they use other people's names, everyone speaking through others. Note where and how the interbranch family members are forging and switching names. The Britain Superior Court. These are also Wethersfield interbranch family members involved with the child campuses and with the on and off of it. Their roles with the use of off it, further with the policing of them. So they're playing games, but when the principal was still on the campus, made more confessions. They hid. They changed what is actually recorded. They put plaintiffs what plaintiffs pled in cases. They changed what they said, and they've been pretending they didn't realize what was proven in cases, because these are people originally and still criminally foreign influenced, involved with justice racketeering, involved differentially with the overt criminal enterprises, and differentially with the private ones, differentially with the branches of government individually grouped and together, methods like switching names and forging names, and preventing writing. They also switch arresting officers' names. So I need to respond. I've been asking since before the World Trade Center attack. I didn't know it was tied to former director of the FBI Robert Luskin and his co-defendants and people from my town that I don't know. But I found out it was. And through how they're tied to people I barely know. And how that was, though there were roles with timed instances where they have complete possession. of our formal fact treatment natures, treatments of positive and negative, therefore of identity more and more. So science never spoke for one location, and this is demonstrated. So I apologize for having to ask you online before your agencies. I mean, of our country's agencies, not everyone's. There are more people with the principal child sex offenders campus in my town, and with my new and past neighbors, and people associated with them in the streets, with various instances with police, and with the doctors of people, and their mental health doctors that are involved with instances with locations where they've been involved with racketeering, with much worse than war crimes. These are also military families. The investigators of the 9/11 attack attached me to other fake locations. WFSB attached me to fake words, fake locations, fake ties to others. They have roles with, they are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated there are investigators, and vetting identities who've been using Millwoods Park for through administrations, where and how they keep victim predators, criminally foreign influence, motivated to it. They're keeping criminally foreign influence styles of syntax, styles of premises treatments, styles of sequence treatments. So I don't remember the girl's name, but there was a girl from Afghanistan who recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed. Others associated with the military police and with the police now, with the Weathersfield Library and the schools and houses next to the schools involved with them with identity thefts and frauds and timed instances on and off campuses connected. There are recorded connections between that. That's why it's important to demonstrate how they're using the people who answer phones to replace what's actually recorded. And they're also ducking behind where the legislation makes them be able to defend their identity. But this is with the other countries too. These are people, when I was in grammar school, attached me to fake locations, sequence shifts. They do methods where they make fake instances and they have people respond to it. And it doesn't really make sense, so no one's going to know how to respond to it. And when they sustained that, which they do in the child campuses, while they're pretending other, that's exploited each year, distinctly, non-distinctly, and further. So also is exploited where and how, especially the probate courts. But it's also the other courts differentially, how they're especially differentially sick. That's a breaching method, having employed that with slavery. They could try to pretend other. They could only get away with it by being rules predators and preventing response in writing. They have to forge names, switch names. They have to rely upon originally and still increasingly valued tactically, criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and therefore statutes. Them needing to pretend other, increasingly need to be an identity that can only define itself through contrast, incapable of speaking for the value of people who are just going to blind sacrifice inter-services. So originally, they'll still pretend that it's personal against the people who serve. When it's brought up where they were and how they are exploited, where there's criminally foreign influence roles with Afghanistan and people with Taekwondo places and people on Broad Street involved with drugs and medicines crimes with an Oliveri family and with a Joshua Stryker, with judges and prosecutors, involved also with the people with the courts on Trinity College with predicate acts. And they're lying to, and they're hiding it from Fox News judges And, they're keeping these fake sides. They're hiding this from, I don't want to say, please help Miss Sweeny. All I need is a response on paper. And I need to know who took my school ID. Because these are people involved with off-campuses police that are also involved with untimely deaths on off-campuses connected. And attaching me to fake ties to themselves and to others in nature. There's a Charlie Bose and his sister. I don't know them from my town. They're also recorded, confessed, when demonstrated, were involved with investigations with an old town cafe around the corner right next to where a couple places over where George Washington had to come to meet with the French general. Remember, leaving slavery entrenched in the North, sickly distinctly in his town. How they could only counter-extort that which was entrenched the way it was, and how it was so mighty and powerful simultaneously. James Madison's plan could only do counter damages until Marbury versus Madison is read with integrity. See, they need real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. Read other. So there are people. When I was in high school, I didn't know him, and there was many people I didn't know, but they were recorded, confessed, demonstrated by other people's words, having been involved, and I never was in locations with them. One time they tried to make an instance to create look other with the Joshua Stryker, the one involved with the predicate acts on Trinity College, who's involved through time. And then that brought up the same people involved on Trinity. They brought up, it was already CCSU too. But I wasn't saying anything to them. That's all I know too, because I minded my own business. I also was able to learn that and how investigated where they use the right to lie, where they don't use the right to lie, don't have the right to lie. How much is involved with the rhetoric, where everyone leaves medical racketeering, logic racketeering, delusions rot, and getting away with it because of their roles as rules, crime predators with various natures of courts personally involved with them criminally. These are people we're going to see through time. We're not going to leave out like a De La Fera family. I also don't know them. The people involved. There's a Mike Levine, and it has something to do with how there's an Afghanistan family. They involved with predicate acts of various natures when I was a kid. I don't know them. They pretended other with sequence and have them involved with falsified police reports, judges and prosecutors, people pretending passions and emotions originally and still, to keep that quality of fact cheap in nature, preventing finite truth, to keep their means and needs to hide lie progressions individually grouped and together. Their roles needs to keep value hurt. Each age of correlation nature is actually simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. As something more, as people more finite than the value of, and as the value, while as the value of them greater than the value, but prevented that voice. The value of these abridged systems of logic, of uses of other people's names, of interpretation of other people's behavior. And no, after having been that sustained. So Miss Sweeny, please help me get them onto paper, because these are courts also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, and people from Trinity College that influenced Dr. Shub, also on houses on and off 2 Route Highway, are involved with the drugs and medicines crimes with the kids and with the military. Brian Bonin and others recorded, confessed, demonstrated that Also, it has to do with all along Route 3 and with houses on off the and people that are associated on and off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices through time, and everyone's family members and their neighbors, and roles with wire crime acts and methods. So there was a the Delafair family confessed because they went out of their way when I was a kid to create instances that demonstrated their roles with all kinds of bad things against little boys and girls. And these are all and with locations next to elderly homes. I found out how it's associated with all that. And these are people with fire departments and inter-campuses and intra-campuses identity theft frauds. I never had a class with any one of those DeMorals or what's the name? Delafair family. And the other boyfriends associated with the Spotted family. I'm sorry, I have to use your name, Spotted family. And your mother's roles with the schools, with the people. There are people with your neighbors, involved with the Phil Cololo, and confessions used about him. And Ray Cololo kept repeating that, kept implying that he was influenced to spread lies, to make it look like I had been trying to pretend to be with you, or one of you. In other words, and multi-front with your other boyfriends at the same time. It has something to do with those judges and people associated with Town Line Drive and all along the Celestine Highway, which runs into Hartford, and with those 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike. And Antoinette Spada, like they made an instance. I barely know her. She sought me out for the confessions. They have all these little girls. I have to talk about these things. They have all these little girls and boys make confessions at once. But it was weird. At the end of the Berlin Turnpike one time, there's 3 spots. It goes straight at the end of the Berlin Turnpike before the heart of Hartford. So the Spotted family lives now, I don't know, next to a Victorian house on Two Rod Highway. And that's the house recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the people further involved with the principal sex offender and medical families and people with forensics locations, also involved with the transition from ARCA to RICO and with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso through time and with the locations next to it, per the people involved with that. Also involved with mayors through time, involved with forensics locations, with state police and with Wethersfield police, and with courts, prosecutors, and their family members, involved with identity thefts and frauds. Also with the buildings and locations next to the media locations, like downtown Hartford, Fox Connecticut News Building, overshadowing the north end of Hartford. It has something to do with 2 Mendez police, involved with fabricating audio and video as police, involved with wire crimes, with these officers forging, switching names, fabricating things. They were involved with that when they were kids. I never had a class that didn't have anything to do with them. Attached me to fake locations, and their roles with the military police trying to set up instances through time, pretending I know them because they're establishing. There's a Justin Klavinskis. I don't know his brother's name. But so those are people recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with drugs and medicines, crimes, or houses in my area. I don't know. I never seen them in my area except for like one time. And so they have that also with Webb School, which is and people on off Central Connecticut State University, on off Trinity College, involved with this Joshua Stryker. They confessed, recorded, demonstrated, involved with them also with the fake ties to me, and with them replacing audio and video that is actually recorded online and in courts. These are also people associated with in the Ninth Circuit Court court that is right next to the World Trade Center towers right before they got hit. It was proven afterwards that from inside the court, they had post-dated documents to make them appear late to the court right before the World Trade Center attack. That was proven. Making them appear late to the court right before the Trade Center attack. That was proven. Led up to a 2006 district court part of the case. The defendants in that case, associated as former director of the FBI Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants, like Thaddeus Grabowski, John LeConte, and Dominic Lapriata. They are involved with people with predicate acts, with databases, with the schools I went to when I was a kid, and with their family members, and with the house on my street, involved with the police, with the intercities predicate acts and fake ties to me, and confessions from strangers that also were trying to imply things were true, where they were involved with the courts and the foreign and collusion through time, and then leading up to the World Trade Center attack and since. So Joe DeMauro also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated years ago. I don't know, he used to make confessions tied to the school and make confessions about him. And there were in programs with kids and stuff like where police shoot guns, and then where places where the public or police shoot, like a Blue Trails. I don't know any of the people from Blue Trails. They were recorded, confessed, and demonstrated all people all along roads and routes involved with them, with their roles, with different other evidence racketeering, identity theft, fraud, sequence shifts, other natures of mail wire crime roles, all mixed. As the roles with the drugs and medicines crimes, and with these people, doctors that fabricate fake conversations with people tied to cases that they are personally involved criminally with the co-defendants in. And since before they were caught for like pension thieves and stuff like that, bookmaking, Shylock, and whatever that is, all this stuff is recorded, known, proven. But they were doing way worse. Also, how they had roles recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with exploitations of what is inter-campus and intra-campuses. And they're filming it to make it look like other. Since before computers, which are making it easier and easier, while it is making it harder and harder. So it's even becoming, they're making everything complicated. Well, it's not. Before anything was value as a binary, for example, the actual letter, the identity, the actual sequence a letter is typed, or a group of keys. The identity is already that real identity, not the binary identity. And all those time impositions to debate, and how do people debate when they want to come to regarding who's an expert and on what, when the sciences are abridged, and when we have these increasingly valuable evidences of that, and how our founding parents wanted and needed us. Function needs us. Function/S need us to discern how slavery was entrenched in Wethersfield, Connecticut, associated with Trinity College, first reportedly to have been named George Washington College. So now they left out that breaching method that George Washington had to leave entrenched. and how our founding parents had, like with James Madison's plan, had to counter it. My father taught me that Marbury versus Madison means real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. Now, he never said all the rest I'm saying to it, but that's what it is, offensively, the pretending justice. So people associated with Trinity College that are from my town, they got in CCSU and other Connecticut campuses, UConn, they were told to use my name. They were told lies about me. This is where everyone's forcing everyone to speak through others. But they also have roles with more names that we could discern, that I know, I know their faces, and I know that they were associated with the kids. There's some, so they have the confessions that it's involved with them with undercover police, with the guy who was with the like a Dillon family, is one of the ones on my street further involved with these with the child sex offenders campus, and with these Mendez police, further involved with a Charlie Bose, and Joe Aiello, also involved with fire departments, with others too, intercities. That's also the fire department right next to the Trinity College. That people associated with Joe Aiello, and with the DeMauro family, and with the Kerr family, and with their roles with like sexual circles, that they were victims of their roles with creating instances. In other words, their roles keeping contained the communications of boys and girls, where and how they're exploiting the confessions, where they're making and keeping context where no one's going to go back and be honest. But they know, but they force that because they make instances that they bring to pretend they're testing or whatever. When it's not the overt criminal of the foreign, and that's differentially too recorded, because they're fabricating. Then they pretend not to understand people. So to keep it clear, Hugh Ogden was made to roles with someone who pretended I wrote a letter. And we can see who that is recorded because I never wrote a letter. And these are also the people involved at the time. I don't know his last name, Terry Lewis or Terry Kleza. People with the policing of an elderly home he worked at. And his neighbors involved with the police and with the corner of Town Line Drive in Weathersfield and Southstein Highway, for example, and Two Rod Highway, where it runs into Hangdog Lane, and the three spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike. They have something to do in conjunction with the different confessions from the strangers that then became involved with uses of them pretending they knew me at Trinity College and CCS. So those three spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike have people involved with identity thefts and frauds that don't even realize it because everyone's speaking through other. For example, too, how they're having sense and sensibilities, to use Jane Austen's phrase. And there are black and white female judges that are also in the furtherance of other worse than the principal sex offender was put in jail for. And they hid that when they were forcing it sustained, that which was found off only partially off campus and reported on. And that was used to cover up what was actually recorded that I caught them involved with. This is with a child campus in my town and with other intercities campuses of different ages. Since before the World Trade Center attack, I've been asking to report instances tied to it. Where they at? Where you try to report instances tied to it, they stack you to fake audio and video communications with others. Then if you try to talk about that, true, everyone becomes more and more people there. And everyone starts calling out the people's names. Oh, they're crazy. Oh, they're conspiracy theorists. But no one's using real premises. No one's allowing the sequence shifts to be told on. They're offensively hiding sequence shifts, remote uses of Congress recorded that the FBI has to use to hide their own remote uses of themselves, of their kids, distinctly from the judicial branch and non-distinctly. But that's that has to be discerned in relationship to their roles in the background with these instances. Again, differentially. And with the information that triggers such in the databases through time. That's consciously being stacked. So please respond for Wethersfield mayors and the higher politicians, and for the judges and prosecutors that forge names, switch names, use their locations to fabricate audio and video. They use it to isolate people so they can fabricate audio, video, and replace it with fabricated audio, video, and sequence shifts, and worse. It's increasingly self-valued with fake database information from before. That reveals that they can't afford what correlation nature has the means to reveal at once. Forgiveness is not to give up. For example, my opinion regarding how they say Jesus is about forgiveness. Forgiveness is not to give up. Forgiveness is to be able to even use as evidence where and how no one will allow the revelations tied to where and how. The discorrelation, the proofs of discorrelation by as the value of the surface value of the Constitution, let alone as the surface values of our most forsaken identity of and as our volume, humanity, so we know it. This employed our reactions as victims sickly distinctly in the suburbs. Next, tactically denatured, less overtly. Hartford's a suburban/urban, self-described properly, because that's how it was forced to be, which is increasingly prevented use by people with sense and sensibilities, offensively the maintenance of that alone as evidence. So in relationship to this, so these are also people with Washington, D.C. and with World Trade Center. So the Morrow families are also recorded involved with a number of ties to the World Trade Center, with the Scalora family, also involved further with the principal sex offenders campus, and with their roles with methods where they lie to little girls, and they have wire crime acts and methods. And they use this method where they stack confessions all at once with the interbranch and the foreign and collusion. So they keep as Oz people who are then going to be asked about things tied to those contacts, tied to people's names they only know through having seen, all exceptions too. They make people know each other, where they keep that method, criminally foreign influence, possession of everything. In other words, we have the training of police forms that hundreds of nations share here and there. And that was as demonstrated, involved with this, with the people with tied to the Joshua Stryker and Mark Violet and Mike Violet, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the House /S, and people involved with this Joshua Stryker. So I know Mike violated